The second is to try and understand why he took the lives of his victims. Third, and the question that most fascinates many, who was Jack the Ripper? As a detective, my job was about gathering evidence, and that is exactly how I will approach this book. When prosecuting killers, wild theories, speculation and conjecture cannot form part of your case. Instead, you must rely on provable facts. So, it is upon those that I will draw my conclusions. When I came to this subject, it quickly became apparent how little I knew of this killer and his crimes. When I policed the area in which he operated, I would have passed his kill sites dozens of times, completely unaware of the significance those places hold. So, this book has been a journey of learning for me. For you, this may be a topic you know much about, or, like me, the name of Jack the Ripper may be one you're familiar with, but not necessarily his actions. Either way, I hope you will take much from my journey through these murders. In many ways, it is one you can share with me. I have written this book along the way. So, as I explore his crimes, I have not even considered who might be carrying them out, or indeed which ones he is responsible for. That was very much deliberate. In most murders I investigated, the crime scene came before the suspect, not the other way around. The first part of this book is purely about understanding these murders, where they happened, how they happened, who the victims were, and why the killer did what he did. The information we know of these crimes essentially comes from two sources: what is left of the police files and press reports at the time. Sadly, most of the official documentation has been lost over time, either destroyed or pilfered. What remains mostly consists of reports made to senior officers by those closest to the investigations. The rest comes from contemporary newspaper reporting. Luckily for us, the way in which Victorian journalists wrote their news stories differs greatly from today. Back then, they were happy to produce articles that were almost word for word of the evidence given in the coroner's inquests held after each murder. It is this detailed reporting that allows us to get a real insight into the events of 1888. Back then, a full coroner's inquest had to be heard after each murder, which usually took place within a couple of days of the crime being committed. These hearings heard evidence from the key witness, with a view to determining the cause of death. We still technically have these hearings today, but they differ greatly. Back then, they were akin to a modern criminal trial, with those giving evidence going into great detail about what they saw and heard. Without these, we would know very little of what unfolded. Fast forward to today, and these hearings do not compare. They involve someone like me, a detective inspector, appearing before the coroner and giving a brief outline of the incident before the inquest is adjourned pending a criminal investigation. So, we are lucky they did things as they did, and we got to hear from those unfortunate enough to be caught up in these murders. Normal people with normal lives who were thrust into the world's and history's spotlight. And it is from these witnesses we will hear what happened in that fateful autumn of 1888. But rather than me just telling you what they saw and heard, we will hear it from their perspective. The chapters will open from the point of view of those who gave evidence in each murder, coming directly from the testimony they gave. After that, I will apply some modern-day investigative approaches as I seek to understand what crimes were the work of Jack the Ripper, and then to narrow down the field of who he may have been. When I started this book, I had no idea of what answers, if any, I would arrive at. Where I ended up surprised even me. My conclusions are reached on the facts in this case. But, as with any criminal investigation, there may be several ways to interpret those facts, resulting in differences of opinion. In the murders I investigated, there were often conflicting thoughts, which is exactly how it should be when you are seeking to prove the most serious of crimes against an individual. Nobody is always right. Our instincts are most definitely not. In the interests of justice, and for the sake of the victims, the outcome of any murder investigation